Welcome to the 8 Billion Project, where we're on a mission to make an impact by discovering and sharing the purpose of every person on this planet. I'm your host, Lisa Florida. Enjoy today's episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast. I am your host, Lisa Florida. And today I have an extra special guest, Miss Kelly Rolfe. Kelly Rolfe is a business mentor, self-love advocate, podcast host, and two-time international best-selling author. Kelly is on a mission to change the narrative of what it means to be a woman in this lifetime, and she really is doing that. She believes that women can do, be, and have it all when in feminine alignment with their truest selves. That is absolutely right. And Kelly Rolfe, welcome to the 8 Billion Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly so excited. And what an intro. Sometimes when people put it on paper like that, I'm like, whoo, look at this life.
I know, right? Isn't it amazing? I mean, for me too, being a guest also on other podcasts, it's just, I'm always constantly reading everyone's bio. But when I hear my own, it's just like, wow, how magical the transformation has been when you are in true alignment.
Absolutely. It has been my lifelong mission and continues to be. So I'm very excited to be here today. Thank you so much for hosting me. And I can't wait for us to dive in.
And truly, for the power of manifestation, we manifested each other and we are so aligned in many ways. That's why I'm so excited to share your story. But Kelly, if you can just go ahead and dive in and tell us, what you're, a little bit about your background and then what you currently do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I'd love to. So my journey began 10 years ago. I was young and naive at all the beauty that this world has to offer. And I was a little bit lost, to be honest, within that excitement. I had given this white picket fence kind of idea of what my life was going to become. And then in the blink of an eye, it was not. I was a brand new mom to my sweet little girl. And I found myself alone in single parenthood, navigating my own emotions and really just walking the earth pretty angry and pretty defeated. And I had a moment with her where I knew that I consciously couldn't raise another generation of women to put that much power in the hands of other people. And that moment that I had that realization really was transformational for me and my evolution, but also for her and all of those around me. Historically, prior to that moment, I had really given my power away at every turn. I molded myself to be lovable, or what I believed was going to make me lovable. I molded myself to be liked, to be cool, I changed who I was in every scenario just to feel enough, just to feel as though I fit in. And that moment I had with her was the first time in my life that I truly believed that I had control over my life and that I had to figure out who I was. And so that's the journey I embarked on. I really had to go inwards and take radical self-responsibility for the way I treated myself, the way I treated my body, the way I allowed others to treat me, and change the narrative on what the trajectory of our life was going to look like. And at the time, I knew nothing about personal development. I had no idea the coaching industry existed. I was just, coasting through life. But I started to really look inward and listen. And what I learned was that I didn't know who I was and I didn't like who I had become. I was highly emotional, some would say aggressive, and all of it was just self-preservation from pain, from a history of trauma and then reoccurring traumas within relationships that continue to happen. And when I was really able to take responsibility for that, I had this beautiful moment where I was like, well, we're at rock bottom. Like it could only go up from here. And I made the decision to decide who I was going to be in this world. I made the decision to decide what kind of woman I wanted to be in this world for my daughter and for myself, and for all of the people that I loved. And I just started to change the way I thought, and I started to change the way I treated myself, and my external world slowly shifted with me. And then I started to feel a little bit pulled to share my evolution on at the time I only knew Facebook, which was unheard of up until that point. Up until that point, I was sharing pictures of my dinner, right? It was like not used
Absolutely.
as a business platform. But I felt in my soul that if I could really help one woman make a decision to change her life and to treat herself with more love and kindness, then it was worth, quote unquote, airing my dirty laundry. And that was really the beginning of everything that you see now, all of the accolades that we've talked about now. It was just a desire to help women love themselves, a desire to help women know that they had power over their lives. They didn't have to look outside of themselves for the answers. They didn't have to look outside of themselves to feel loved, to feel enough, to feel worthy. And in turn, we were radically transforming our lives every time we chose us. So I built this community, and collectively we're like, how do we love ourselves today? And I would start to see changes occur within women in my community. I was starting to see my life radically shift. And then I learned that the coaching industry was a thing, which was life-changing, because at that moment, I had already been doing it for free 99 for about 3 years.
99, right?
I've been doing
That
it
is
for
service to others.
Yeah, right, for 3 years. And that was when I really became a true entrepreneur and labeled my brand and became a brand, which I love dearly. It's that brand that I speak of is Love Yourself Fiercely. And that is really has been the journey of my life for the last decade, and will continue to be a huge piece of my journey moving forward, because I truly believe that women who know themselves can find alignment within themselves. And when we know who we are and we're aligned with our desires of this life, we really are unstoppable. We take powerful women, those words, we take that to the next level. But it starts with us. It starts with our personal evolution. It starts with radical self-leadership and self-responsibility. And it starts with the decision to really love ourselves.
Absolutely. That is the single most important thing in this whole journey. You know, whether it's women or whether it's men, but in this case, like you were put in a, situation and circumstance. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you now, going back to your story, and I do ask this quite a bit, just because for so many different people, it's different. Now, would you say the transformation was one single moment that was like a day that you just had this either big epiphany, or what was the or was it a series of time events that had kind of happened for you?
Yeah. So that moment where I had that thought that I couldn't consciously raise another woman to continue the pattern was my first transformational moment. And then there have been many transformational moments along the way since then. And I always use the term radical self-responsibility and radical self-leadership, because it is evolution and growth over a lifetime. We don't just wake up one day and go, this is it. Today's the day I change. There's so much learning to do about ourselves. There's so much healing to do about our conditioning from the past and traumas of the past. We've all been through stuff in our life that have molded us into this version of who we are the day we decide that we can't keep going that way. And so it's about a series, for me anyways, a series of transformational moments where I continue to peel back the layers on the conditioning and the false beliefs that weren't serving me, the protective measures I had taken to keep myself safe, based on my experiences in life. And here I am 10 years later, and I continue to uncover deeper components so I can continue to grow in my mission and in my messaging to take this mission to the next level. But there's always work to do. There's always a transformational moment. As of late, I'm planning my very first in-person live event, which is so cool and so exciting, and also is really uncovering a piece of me that is still very much afraid to be seen fully. And that's the work, right? That's the evolution. We continue to deepen and say, okay, this stuff is still coming up. How do I take radical self-leadership in this moment to honor myself in this place, as well as continue to move forward in my mission? What do I have to heal? What do I have to stand firm in? How do I continue to grow and evolve? And I firmly believe this will never end for me. This will always be an evolution of self. There will always be transformative moments and lessons that allow me to deepen in my inner knowing and in my inner power.
No, that is absolutely powerful though, Kelly, because I'm experiencing the same thing. So for all the women who are listening in the audience, and this is really important for me, especially as we're uncovering this, even just in the podcast, because for me, I've been an entrepreneur in real estate, but then when I started following my calling, now a lot of my energy is shifting this way. However, I'm the one putting, I'm the one putting all of the investment money in this. And I was like, I'm coming to that place in the universe in time right now. I'm going through huge spiritual ascension right now too, because I'm saying, how is this going to support me if now this is my mission? And this is absolutely something I can't live without, because it speaks of me so highly. So I'm so happy that I'm on this podcast with you, and I can feel your eyes like beaming across to me, because you're absolutely right. I was thinking about that. I was like, do I start doing coaching? Do I start doing master classes? I've got this wealth of knowledge. And it even goes back to, like what you were saying, it was a series of events that happen in your life. But for many people, as they're going through this and purging, like, where do they get the help? You know what I mean? So going back to that now, Kelly, as you first started out, and remember, I know you shared your story with me. Resources are tight for a lot, whether it was back then when you started, or for people even now, like they can't seem to find, they can't get the coaching, or they don't know how, they can't afford the healing. Could you just take us through that process of how you probably started your self-healing, and maybe things that, that would be of, benefit to the audience, that could start with something they can do for free?
Absolutely. And that's just it. I consumed as much free content as I could find with coaches and mentors that activated me. So here's a really important piece for the listeners. There are a billion coaches. There are a million mentors. There are a lot of things out there in the world. And if I could give the greatest piece of advice that helped me on my journey, but also I hope will serve your audience, is find somebody who activates your body when you hear them speak. There has to be some sort of energetic exchange that occurs in a mentor. Otherwise, we just fall into patterns of overconsumption. So for me, I found mentors I really admired in the online space, and I consumed all of their free content. I found books at the library that I devoured books at the beginning, because I was so naive to the whole thing that I was just seeking that one piece from the book that I could put into practice. Now, me as a coach, still to this day, I firmly believe that affordability is everything, because I started this as a single mother on one income. There was no money for coaching. My first huge investment in a one-on-one coach was scary. My second one was scary. My current mentorship is terrifying. So I offer a lot of free masterclasses. It's something I will never change, because I know what it's like to need guidance, to want guidance, and not be able to access it right now. But being in the energy of mentors who really activate you becomes a spiritual game. It's an energetic exchange. Absolutely. Where when we feel that connection, we absorb it's proximity to power, right?
Absolutely.
We engulf in this energetic exchange, which allows us to move forward with what we've gained from free content and low ticket offers. And that's really how I structure my business. I have lots of free content, lots of low ticket offers, lots of highly affordable products, as well as my high end offers for those who are really ready for that level. But I don't believe that good mentorship should equal going into debt should equal a person on a journey asking themselves what they have to sacrifice. It shouldn't be that. It's how can I tap into energy to evolve and grow in the place I am now so I can get to the next best step.
No, it's absolutely that, because something I even came across something with like Michael Bernard Beckwith. I'm not sure if you know him. He was, everyone for the audience, for point of reference, is on The Secret, the book. Remember that was released many years ago. And I came across one of his IG stories and he said, you know, you take that little tiny piece of light and you move with it and it starts becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And as you move through that, that's when it starts to open up and it starts to consume, right? And now the light becomes bigger. So it's perfect example of what Kelly was talking about. It was taking the little bits and pieces of everything that she could consume for free. And the universe knows to support you because they know you're looking for it. And before you know it, alignment starts happening. That, like what they say, when the student's ready, the teacher will appear. And it appears in ways that are so magical that will support you towards your growth. And you and I have had that conversation, right? Even us, even on this podcast or so, even in our pre-podcast interviews, we were like so charged after that, because we were just like, once you take this energy and you share it and it activates towards the world, it's amazing what it does. So yeah,
it's, you nailed it. When the student is ready, the teacher will come. And I know that for certainty in my own journey. And I also always love to share this piece when we're talking about, finding the right mentors. For all of your listeners, coaching is not necessary for your success. Coaching is an avenue for people to collapse time and quantum leap and be in proximity to what you desire, but it is not required for success. What's required for success, what's required to build your desires, is alignment. Right. And this is the most important piece. And this is why I teach feminine alignment in business, because when we are able to really understand what it is we desire to create in the world, what it is we desire to build for our life, we can continue to come back in alignment. We can stop looking outside of ourselves for the air quotes right thing in terms of building business, right thing in terms of building wealth. And that's just external circumstances. Everybody's evolution is different. So when we can come back into alignment about our missions on this planet, about what it is we desire in our life, that's evolution. And success can absolutely be built on alignment. Coaching is an avenue for people to collapse time and really be in energetic alignment with a mentor. So I think it's important for the people listening to know that you don't have to be always investing in coaching. Self-investment is so important on some levels. But if you are not in a place to do that, I don't want your listeners to believe they can't have what they want. They absolutely can. It's just, what are we ready for now? And how can you consume the information that is pivotal to putting you back into alignment to create the life that you desire? But alignment is key.
And let me ask you, for obvious reasons, I know with you sharing the story, you found yourself as a single mother and with like nothing. And so you had to start from, zero. So maybe could you elaborate more of how for you, it became more of your mission for, in terms of moving with like feminine alignment? As opposed to, you know what I mean? Because now you really do have a more honed in mission for women. And if you could speak a little bit more on that feminine alignment and energy. I absolutely have done my studies on it and understand it. But if you please, from your perspective.
Absolutely. And so my initial mission was just like break down the conditioning that occurs for women from the time we're little, the societal conditioning, break it down and allow ourselves to be seen and allow ourselves to love from within. That was my initial mission. And it evolved as I evolved. And then we pulled in a lot of healing in terms of core wound healing, in terms of inner child healing. As I evolved, I've pulled those pieces in. And the truth is, the energetic alignment, the energetics of business are relatively new. I only heard that concept about 18 months ago, and it blew my mind and activated my body in such a way that I immediately, it became my life's work in my own real life, in my own marriage, in my own business, as a mother. And I can tell you, my evolution and growth over the last 18 months far surpasses the last 8 years prior to that. And the reason for that is when we get clear on what it means to be in feminine energy. Okay, we're gonna slow it down. So everybody, I'm sure you guys have talked about this on your podcast, but for those that energetics is new to, every human being has feminine and masculine energy. We all do. And there's a beautiful balance that gets to occur within our feminine and masculine energy. Our masculine energy is can I cuss here? It's the get stuff done energy. It's the get shit done energy, right? It's the actionable energy. So it's how we actually do things. And then the feminine energy is the being. It's the receiving, it's the vulnerability, it's the love, it's the emotional depth of who we are as women. And also men have both energies. And what tends to happen is we are conditioned so heavily in a masculine society, masculine systems, that we're taught as little girls that being in our emotions and being vulnerable and being highly sensitive doesn't serve us in the real world. And so our school systems and our corporate systems really condition us to lean in our masculine energy very heavily. But the problem with this is we are not tapped into our feminine energy. And so our relationships suffer because there's no harmonic balance between the masculine and feminine in a relationship. We're so in our masculine that our partners lean back in their feminine and receive, and we're like, our man does nothing. Yeah. And we're like, no, yeah, but the truth is you don't let him, because if you lean back and allowed yourself to receive, he could rise in his masculine and do what he does in his natural alignment. And so we're out of balance as a society. We're out of balance in relationship, and we don't understand the power of the feminine energy in actual magnetism of money. When we talk about abundance is feminine energy. That's how you get it. One of my favorite mentors ever, it says it's like the UPS of the universe is like driving by your house, but the gate's closed because you're in your masculine energy. And so he goes around the block and he comes back and the gate's closed and he can't deliver your package because we are always in the get shit done mode, always. But the craziest part about feminine power is when we are able to tap into our feminine energy and trust and surrender to we ordered it from the universe, but now we have to let them deliver it to our house. And so when we're able to lean back and allow trust and surrender to take over, that we've done the necessary masculine energy steps to head towards our desire, and now we get to lean back and allow ourselves to receive, that is where the magic actually happens. And this speaks to both men and women who are learning about energetics and putting them in business. A man can build massive wealth in masculine energy, but I'll tell you, he can build massive wealth in a less amount of time if he learns to tap into the receiving energy that exists within him.
Yes. Absolutely. 100%. I could even feel it while you were talking to me, because in a way, like with energetics, you were saying it's the last 18 months. And in most cases, we can't see what energy is. But when you're so tapped in and tuned in, you could start to see it. Like you'll understand conceptually in your head the visions that happen, right? Like you use your masculine energy, push out work, but you use your feminine energy to love and transform, you receive. And it's all the same things. It's so cool that I'm having this conversation with you, Kelly. Interestingly enough, mine was about 18 months ago that I really started learning about energy, and it was profound for me.
You know, it's interesting because I've been an entrepreneur with that, like made money in a real business. Did it for free for a few years, but for almost 7 years. And the truth is I struggled quite a bit to hit my income goals for a long time. But it was through my healing work, my inner child work, where I was able to understand that receiving was hard for me because I was afraid I was unlovable. That goes back to my childhood wounds. I wasn't able to allow people to love me. I wasn't able to allow the universe to deliver my package of money, right? I wasn't able to do that. It felt very unsafe. So as I explored that, I was like, I need to know what the next step is in order for me to practice letting people in, letting the money come, letting the world love me in my greatness and in my sadness and in my vulnerability. I had to practice that. And so I started practicing it in my marriage. And when when the student's ready, the teacher will come. So for those listening, if anybody has never heard of Alpha Femme, Melanie Ann Layer is like next level in terms of teaching energetics. And so I found her by accident. And she blew my mind next level in terms of how she teaches energetics. And so I was like, well, I feel very unsafe to be seen. I feel very unsafe and foreign in my feminine energy. So what better than to allow my husband to teach me how to do this, teach me how to let him love me. And that's how I learned. And what I realized was that it was so safe to be in my feminine energy that I then took Melanie's teachings and thought, okay, she says that I have to be in my feminine energy to receive in my business. Let's see what happens. Now I feel comfortable being seen by my partner. Now I feel comfortable parenting my daughter in feminine energy, which was really scary too, because we're not taught to do that. Because mothering is actually masculine energy, and I didn't know that. So I started to respond to her in a feminine energy way. And so I had practiced in my real life, and then I started putting it in practice in my business. And I was like, quantum leaping. I was hitting these income goals that I was like, I'd been trying to hit them for so long, and they just were not, it wasn't happening. And then I was in feminine alignment. And it was magic. And that's why it's such a powerful piece of my business now, because we can do it the hard way. For sure we can. It's not that you're not successful if you build your business in masculine energy. It's not that you're not successful. You can't be successful if you don't have a coach. None of that's true. But if we want to do it in a way that feels so badass, so fun, so much pleasure, so much desire, so much excitement, while truthfully building a collective of fierce women who feel safe to be seen, like it's next level what is possible in our lives and in our businesses when we understand the power of our own energy.
Yeah, absolute. It's truly transformative. And for the men that have stuck around on this specific podcast, it's true. Like just because, like Kelly, what you're saying, I mean, you specifically deal with a lot of females in your coaching and in business. But for the men that have tuned in, this is truly a gift, because what you'll start to understand, and this is what I've been noticing too with a lot of my podcast men, I mean, a lot of my male podcast guests, is a lot of them are transforming business because they're coming from a heart space. And John Slayton, if you are listening to this, because you're such an amazing, friend, I know you might be listening. He's built a massive construction company in 6 years, which would take many companies decades to build, because he absolutely comes from that heart space where it's being, of service to others. It's genuinely caring for his staff, and that nurturing side, that feminine side, is actually coming out, and it's truly transforming his business. So for all the men that are tuning into this is a huge gift, because we carry both feminine and masculine energy, and it's a fine dance. And because you were even telling me, you're like, oh, let me practice my feminine, energy, even with your husband, right? And you naturally think that that's the case, but very true. Like we have been always taught to have masculine, or depending on our environments growing up, which is a lot of us, for the human population, we've been taught to be more masculine. But are you noticing, though, Kelly, that is the shift into where consciousness is going now? It truly is about the feminine energy.
Absolutely. And I think, let's not get too political here, but I think with all of the really difficult things that are happening or being unveiled that are still happening in our world, I think it's about all of us ascending to reconnection with self. And that, on a spiritual level, is reconnection to our energy. And the missing component historically for the last 100, 150, 200, technically 5,000 years, has been the disconnect from the feminine.
Yep.
And the imbalance amongst human beings, the imbalance of the masculine and the feminine in our systems, in our relationships, in ourselves, in our businesses, in all of it. I always share, like, little children, all children are in feminine energy naturally. That's why they're always like, oh, I want that. I want that. I want that. I want that. Because they're in feminine energy of desire. And then we send them off to school, and it's very exciting, and they're sweet, and they're growing up, and we're very happy for them. And then they have to ask permission to go to the bathroom, get told when to eat, what to read, when to go home, when to get up, when to change their books. It's such a masculine energy construct that they're taught from a very young age that desire place, that place of pleasure, is not welcome in our society. And so we suppress our feminine energy in all of us. And then we firmly believe that, the societal expectation of what a man should be and how a man should be and what a woman should be and how a woman should be. We believe that, like, that's what we're doing here. That's not even a little bit. That's the human experience of the patriarchal, I can never say that word. Patriarchal systems that have been in place for so long. So what's happening with collective ascension and collective awakening around a lot of the things in our world that feel out of alignment with where we are spiritually being guided is we're learning to understand our own energy and how to lead with love and how to build from desire. We don't do that. We haven't done that in so long. When I started this journey, if someone had said, what do you desire for your life? I would have been like, what do you mean desire? What do you mean? It was a word that I had never even really heard, or the word pleasure, up until this unveiling of my own energy and this embodiment practice. The word pleasure in our society is sexual, has been. And it's such a deeper energetic, it has such a deeper energetic meaning in terms of why are we not in a constant state of creating pleasure in our world? Not sexual, just pleasure in general. Look at little kids. They get really excited over candy. They get excited over ice cream. They're so in the moment of the magic that is happening in their world. That's pleasure. That's joy. That's desire. And then we grow up and we're resentful and miserable in our real life experiences, and we have no idea why. Well, that's because we haven't allowed ourselves joy, pleasure, and desire since we were 4 and entered the school system. Right. So it's about bringing that back into our worlds individually and in relationship, creating the harmonic balance in relationship, whether that's, friendship, platonic relationships, an intimate relationship, a business relationship, it's lacking. That piece is lacking. And so I firmly believe that we're shifting that way as a collective. And you'll really start to see a stronger energetic pull towards the feminine collectively.
Right. Male or female.
Male or female.
Male or female. Yes. Yeah. It's an energy form. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Now, let me ask you, and this is going to be really interesting, and I'm curious to know this, because a lot of people, they are afraid to be seen. And you know what I'm saying? But this is, 8 billion is all about standing in your power. It's all about embracing, it's all about, for me, bringing without getting too complicated, guys, it's bringing the 5D consciousness down to 3D, which is in essence, what the whole mission of 8 billion is. But like when you were saying, and I think this could help a lot of the audience, when you were realizing that you were afraid to be seen, what were the steps that you took in order to get past that? Was it something like if you could share that with the audience?
For sure. So I think my fear of being seen was so deeply suppressed in me that I didn't even recognize that it existed. So having been in the online space, on video, in real life, people watching my every move for so long, I had a confidence about me. I always have. And so that I just operated from that place. Like, this is about service. This is about helping others. And I would suppress my fear. And so as I deepen within myself, as I deepen within my mission and really start to elevate in that next level version of myself, along with years of healing now, I see that my confidence was really just a mask for my fear of allowing people to see me in my feminine truth, which is the state of vulnerability. So for context, I was a child that everybody said was too loud and too much. And so I was very loud as a little girl. So very boisterous, very excited, always, trying to be a leader in some capacity. And that was very dimmed from the adults in my world. At home, at school, it had been dimmed throughout my life. And so as I start to really embody this next level of myself, allowing myself to be seen, I can really feel that coming up. You're going to be too much. You're going to be too loud. People aren't going to like that. What if you make a mistake? All of those things that we have conditioned to believe actually mean failure when really it's not. I make mistakes every day. So part of me moving through it is that, like, reminding myself, every mistake I've ever made, I literally tripped and fell into the next best thing in my life. So I remind myself that imperfection is how I built everything. And I tap in to my spirituality. I tap in to my intuition always. And I think I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have ever walked this path if I didn't listen to that voice in my gut that said, go now. Just do it. Just do the thing. Or no, that's not right for you. And so when my fear rises, when my human fear rises, and my trauma decides to come out to play, I tap into my sacral. I tap into my intuition and I say, what do we do next? What feels like the next best step? And it's often really loud. You can't really ignore it once you learn how to listen, right? And so I know that 2022 is going to be a crazy expansive year for me in my business. I'm taking on so many new opportunities, and my human is really afraid. I'm really afraid that I'm going to have to allow myself to be vulnerable at a different level. I'm going to have to allow myself to make mistakes as I navigate new pieces of my business. But my sacral and my intuition says, this is everything for you. This is everything.
breakthrough. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that is how I navigate. For those who are not quite sure how to tap into the intuition, or you don't have a strong connection to your intuition just yet, ask yourself, this is a tip that I wish someone had told me, ask yourself yes or no questions and listen to your body's response.
Yep. Absolutely.
And you will always know. I always think like you walk into a room and something just feels super off and you're like, and I'm out, right? Listen to that. That will always steer you in the next best direction. It will never steer you wrong as long as you tap into your body's response, not your mind's response.
Absolutely. I 100% or 1,000%. No, I mean, I can truly attest to that's how it's. I've been sharing this on so many different podcasts. Your body knows before. And we're like, you can feel these different things, but we've been so tuned to like, if we have an ache, we'll just take Advil or, anything but it's really telling you more because everything is energy. These are truly like powerful gems and advice that you've dropped. And I know we are in so much alignment, and thank you so much for sharing that. Now, Kelly, I know that you were saying that you are releasing a masterclass, but depending, I think, because this is season 4. So I know that I might not launch this until October because that's when season 4 launches. So, for point of reference, guys, we are recording this prior to season 4 launch. However, Kelly, if anyone would love to get a hold of you or learn more about what you might be, like the programs and masterclasses you're going to be having maybe towards 4th quarter of that year, or how they can just even find you.
So the gram is my jam. So Instagram is my favorite platform to hang out on. And you can find me at Kelly Rolfe Coaching there. Send me a DM. Let me know you listen to this. I would love to hear your favorite piece. As for things coming up, there's many. I'm very, very excited about my very first mastermind that we're starting in October. So for those who are listening who feel activated by this conversation and really want to know how to build feminine wealth in complete alignment, I am launching a year-long mastermind starting in October that I'm very excited for. It's called Fierce Fempreneur, and it really is about how to build aligned feminine wealth. So that's a paid offer that I'm very excited about. Masterclasses, I get so many downloads on like what to do next that there's nothing scheduled, but they always come. So they always come. As for the listeners here, I do have a previous masterclass that I love and adore called Confident AF that I will happily share with your audience. So if you're cool, we can link that in the show notes and they can have direct access to that free. That's a 2-hour event that I had run. And then one of my favorite things coming up is in January of 2022, I am hosting my first 2-day live event in Toronto. And that really is about self-leadership, self-mastery, emotional mastery, and really rising as a collective woman. So that is an option too. If you're interested in that, you can head over to the Instagram where I will be sharing all the details as they release.
And she really does. She's amazing. She's amazing on the gram and all of the other platforms that she's on. And of course, you can find that in the description. But just for point of reference, if they do happen to see this, if any females from the audience do happen to see this or come across it after October 2021, and you have started that mastermind, are you allowing anyone to jump in after that? Just in case.
So it'll be a rolling enrollment. And so when you enroll, it's your 12 months. So let's say people start with me in October, they're done in October. If you start with me in January, then you go till January 2023. And it's going to be so incredible. I'm excited to bring a group of women ready to really rise in their most authentic way, and build community around that.
You are definitely going to see me somewhere in there, Kelly, because I know I was just like, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And even me as 8 billion guys, I'm telling you, I've done a lot of work, and there's no exception to the rule. Everyone is asked to ascend during this time. They're asked to shed a lot of their trauma. And that's why I'm putting on guests like Kelly Rolfe and these amazing people like, and that's what I'm saying. I think I might even try and go 2 days a week in terms of podcasts, because they are just coming out the gates, Kelly. And especially the feminines, they're like, I have to have a platform and you got to hear my voice. They are coming out in droves, but this is amazing to have you on. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to hear your community's greatest takeaway. And I'm so honored to be on 8 billion.
Oh, well, okay. You didn't get away that easy. And sometimes I'll throw this in from time to time. If you had even just your, a few minutes to speak to 8 billion people, right? And you get that moment where everyone is quiet and they have to listen to a few words of advice. What would that advice be?
This is my favorite question of all time, I think. My greatest piece of advice for anyone who is really ready to find out who they are is to learn to listen to yourself. Learn to trust yourself. When you can sit with yourself in silence and you really, really are able to hear your energy, hear your thoughts, feel your feelings, and learn to trust that you are your greatest power source. When you can do that, you will do anything.
I feel that. No, and I swear, Kelly, when you said that, I could feel like the power come through my body, because it just reminded me of a message that I listened to this morning from someone on YouTube. And she said, you guys are asking to ascend. She goes, be in silence. And she said, let the spark of God take over. And she breathed so hard. She knew she was channeling. She knew that it was a message from the ether, because this is happening, you guys. We are here in the greatest times of our lives. So there's no better time than to stand in your power and just kill it.
Absolutely. And the truth is, don't fear it, right? There's so much fear around healing. There's so much fear around ascension. We call it opening up Pandora's box or opening up our wounds. And the truth is, you're already carrying that crap with you. So when you allow yourself to open the box, open the trauma, open the wound, you allow yourself to release it. And that is the work. That is the work of our lives. That is the work of our next generation. That is the work of our ascension as a collective.
No, amazing. What gems you have dropped, not only in this podcast, but what you are going to be doing in the future for a lot of us women, right? But thank you so much, Kelly Rolfe, for being on the 8 Billion podcast. It has been such a pleasure. And I know this isn't going to be the only things we do together. So
I hope not. Thank you so much. I am so excited to see what's next for us.
Absolutely. So thank you to the audience that tuned in today's episode of with Kelly Rolfe of Love Yourself Fiercely. And I will catch you guys on the next episode of the 8 Billion podcast. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If it's moved you in any way, please review and share your thoughts, or text me your thoughts at 949-247-2800.